Hello, I'm Shalini and I'll be presenting about the economic policy introductions and amendments of different countries in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. As for the content, I will be giving a simple introduction to coronavirus pandemic and the impact on worldwide economy. To discuss regarding the economic policies that has been introduced and amended, I chose three main countries: United States of America, India, and Japan. I will give a quick comparison and give an overall conclusion in the end. As we all know, the COVID-19 pandemic is an ongoing global pandemic caused by severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus 2. The outbreak was first identified in Wuhan, China in December 2019. The first confirmed case has been traced back to November 2019. The World Health Organization declared the outbreak a public health emergency of international concern on 30th January 2020 and as a pandemic on 11th March 2020. Currently, there are over 12,350,460 coronavirus cases identified around the world and 555,894 deaths and 7,162,848 recovered cases. COVID-19 impact on world economy. The impact on the global economy due to coronavirus is severely negative. Most major economies approximately had a loss up to 2.4% of their value gross domestic product. The pandemic is expected to plunge most countries into a recession in 2021, with per capita income contracting in the largest fraction of countries globally since 1870. As you can see in this chart, the pandemic will cause the largest global recession in history, with more than a third of the global population at the time being placed on lockdown. Every region is subjected to a substantial growth downgrades. East Asia and the Pacific will grow by a scant 0.5%. South Asia will contract by 2.7%. Sub-Saharan Africa by 2.8%. Middle East and North Africa by 4.2%. Europe and Central Asia by 4.7%. And Latin America by 7.2%. Those downturns are expected to reverse years of progress towards development goals and tip tens of millions of people back into extreme poverty. The sharp pace of global growth forecast downgrades points to the possibility of yet further downward revision and the need for additional action by policymakers in coming months to support economic activity of each nation. The crisis highlights the need for urgent action to cushion the pandemic's health and economic consequences, protect vulnerable populations, and set the stage for a lasting recovery. From now on, I will introduce new policies and amendments by three main countries: United States of America, India, and Japan. There are different reasons why I selected each country. United States is due to being the country with the most number of COVID-19 cases identified and a huge negative impact on the economy. India, due to being a third world country and a developing nation and yet taking extremely important actions under the crisis. Japan is because there are very less number of infected cases compared to other countries and yet the economic decline is quite huge. United States of America. The US is facing a widening outbreak of COVID-19 that has claimed the lives of about 127,000 Americans and infected more than 2.5 million people across all 50 states. In response, the US has implemented a range of measures including travel restrictions, social distancing, and declaration of states of emergency. Reflecting the impact of the containment measures, the world's largest economy, the US economy, contracted at an annualized rate of 5% in the first quarter, and the unemployment rate has reached 13.3% in May 2020. The negative impact on the US economy due to COVID-19 is extreme. Due to the strong development of the COVID-19 outbreak across states, progress on reopening the economy are varying across the country. As of July 9th, all states have begun the reopening process. However, there are meaningful restrictions in place with the reopening. To provide emergency financial assistance and healthcare responses for individuals, families, and businesses affected by the pandemic, CARES Act was introduced on 25th March 2020 by the US government. This act contains three main economic divisions to stop the decline of the economy. Division A is for small business interruption loans with loan programs, match fund programs, and loan forgivenesses. Division B, relief for individuals and families. Division C, assistance to severely distressed sectors of US economy. An estimated 2.3 trillion US dollars have been confirmed for this act to promote coronavirus aid, relief, and economic security for the nation. Other than this main act introduced to keep the economic decline stable, the federal governments also have introduced and amended few policies to support citizens. The Federal Reserve also introduced facilities to support the flow of credit. There are 9 main facilities introduced through this, such as Commercial Paper Funding Facility and Secondary Market Corporate Credit Facility, and more. Federal funds rate were lowered as well. Actions have also been taken to lower the community bank leverage ratio to 8%, and this amendment provides extension transitions for the current expected credit loss accounting standard. Many states have revised and expanded unemployment benefits coverages for employees affected by coronavirus-related layoffs, shutdowns, and working hour reductions. These actions and policies introduced by the government is preventing further decline of the nation's economy, at least for the time being, and giving citizens a relief. India. The first case of COVID-19 in India was reported on 30th January 2020, and the number of cases continued to rise. Prime Minister Modi announced on March 24th that the entire country will go under a lockdown. The economic impact of COVID-19 in India has been substantial and broad-based. High-frequency indicators point to a sharp decline in economic activities of the country. On April 15, with a view to support the economic activities, the government announced several relaxation measures in geographical areas designated as non-hotspot with effect from 20th April 2020. On April 29, the government permitted interstate movement of standard people, including migrant workers managed by the nodal authorities who are designated by the states. Many policies and actions were taken to reduce the decline of the economy and the country as a whole. One of the key policies in response by the government is India's fiscal support measures. There are 2 main categories in this policy. 1. The direct spending and foregone or deferred revenue. About 1.9% of GDP is used for this section. Section 2. Below-the-line measures designed to support businesses and shore up credit provisions to several sectors. About 4.9% of GDP used for this section. The main objective of this key policy response is to cash transfer to lower income households, 150 billion Indian rupees for the health infrastructure, wage support and employment provisions to low-wage workers, and easing tax compliance burden for business sectors. With the decline of the economy, the business sector itself started failing. To protect such business, the Indian government introduced a new policy called Business Package Policy. This business package policy supports migrants, farmers, distressed electricity distribution companies, some miscellaneous support measures with emergency support funds. Additional support to farmers and other agricultural sector workers and business will be given by the government as agriculture is one of the main economic factors that keeps the Indian economy stable. With the huge outbreak, many people have lost their careers. The government has introduced a separate fund through business support package policy to support such unemployed citizens. These are the main policies and actions taken by the Indian government to prevent the national economy from further declining. Japan is another country that faced a huge economic decline due to the coronavirus pandemic, even with less outbreak in the nation compared to India and US. As of July 10, 2020, Japan has reported 20,252 confirmed COVID-19 cases and 982 deaths. In response to the outbreak, the authorities have taken several measures targeted towards the health and containment efforts. Economic experts believe that the economy of Japan has faced a huge decline as the 2020 Tokyo Olympics got postponed to 2021. Amid the declining trend of daily new confirmed cases of COVID-19 since the beginning of May, all the prefectures were lifted from the emergency status by 31st May 2020, and the nation reopened their economy as normal. On April 7th, partly revised from April 20th, the government of Japan adopted the emergency economic package against COVID-19. 117.1 trillion, which is about 21.1% of 2019 GDP of Japan, is used to support this fund system. The April package aims at 5 objectives, including developing preventing methods for COVID-19, protecting employment and business, regain economic activities after containment, enhance readiness for the future, rebuild the economic structure. The key measures comprise cash handouts to every individual and affected firms, deferral of tax payments and social security contributions, and concessional loans from public and private financial institutions. Apart from the main Emergency Fund Act of the Japanese government, there are few other policies that was introduced and amendment in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. FY 2020 draft supplementary budget passed on June 12th is a package that covers health-related measures, support to businesses, support to households, and transfers to the local governments. The specific measures include expansion of work subsidies, provision of subordinated loans by the public financial institutions to the affected firms, and subsidies to affected firms for their rent payments. The government expanded the volume of concessional loan facilities, primarily for micro, small, and medium-sized business affected by COVID-19 through the Japanese Finance Corporation and other institutions. The Diet approved an amendment of the Act on Special Measures for Strengthening Financial Functions. The Act aims to strengthen the regional banks. Though Japan faced a less outbreak compared to many other countries in Asia and the Western world, the economic decline occurred in Japan is greater. However, the actions taken by the Japanese government has at least strengthened the economy for the time being. Rather than a comparison, in this section I would like to show how each country has taken actions and what are some differences between the policies and actions taken by each country. As you can see, the first coronavirus case in each country was found around the same time, which is in mid and towards the end of January of the year 2020. Start of different economic policies also occurred at the same time. But the main focus of each nation when it comes to newly introduced policies and amended policies are different. The United States of America supports the citizens with loans, bank leverages, house mortgages, and reductions and postpones. This is for both families and business sectors. India, as a third world nation, tries to quickly answer the poverty question by supporting the lower income families. And also, India takes action to support micro, small, and medium-sized businesses that are failing with the decline of the economy. Compared to other countries, one main action that India takes is to give additional support to the nation's main economic rising sector, agriculture. This can be viewed as a really good action taken by the Indian policymakers. Similar to India, Japan is also supporting micro, small, and medium sized businesses. And quite different from both India and the US, Japan gives financial support to both Japanese citizens and foreign residents. Another main factor that was very visible is how this financial support is divided between people in those three countries. The United States only provides support through the new policies to the American citizens, and foreign citizens are not taken into consideration. India, on the other hand, with the expected budget to spend to support is mainly used for the lower income families that is more likely to face poverty due to the pandemic, and local and foreign student residents of the country. Japan supports both Japanese citizens and foreign residents living in Japan with the enacted policies. So, as a conclusion, I would like to say all three countries have taken prompt actions for the economic decline that occurred due to the coronavirus pandemic. But their focus on the economy is different, as the main factors that keep the economy alive in each country is different. With each policy enacted and amended by all three countries, the sharp economic decline that occurred has been taken care of, at least for the time being. However, as the world is about to face a greater recession with the second wave of coronavirus pandemic, quick actions should be taken in the future as well. Even though it is extremely impossible to stabilize the economic status with the current crisis, I believe the actions taken by the aforementioned countries were extremely helpful for the nation to stand back on feet. But definitely further actions are needed to stop the nation from facing a tragic failure in economy. This is the end of the presentation. Thank you for listening.